Coming up on this week's edition of Flashtalk, we talk with head ball coach Kenni Burns about Week 1 at UCF and preview this weekend's game at Arkansas. At Kent State Legend Comes Home, we talk to Jenna Hellstrom about her journey to return as a Kent State soccer coach. We take a look behind the scenes at our fall media days. Vice President and Director of Intercollegiate Athletics, Randale Richmond, comes in to give a state of the athletic department. And as always, we take a look around what's going on in Kent State sports. That's all coming up in a flash. Welcome back inside the GFTV studios. It's Flash Talk. Dan Griffin alongside head ball coach Kenni Burns. And Coach, congratulations on making your head coaching debut. I know it wasn't the result, but just kind of what were the emotions, everything leading up to your first go-around leading that team out of the tunnel on Thursday night?
Yeah, there's a lot of emotion. Obviously, it's your first time. You prepare for this your whole career. You're anxious to get to the moment where you finally get to take your team out the tunnel. And there's definitely some emotions there of all the people that helped you along the way get there. And to be finally in that moment, it's a little bit surreal, but it was fun. And then the game starts and then, it's just football, so then you get into coach mode and you start to figure out ways to win the game. So good experience.
Well, obviously it wasn't the result we wanted, but a lot of positives to take away. Let's start a little on the defensive side of the ball. You forced 3 turnovers, and obviously Devin Nicholson all over the field as a leading linebacker. But you guys were able to make some big plays over the course of those 4 quarters.
Yeah, there's highs and lows of every game. And we did some things defensively that were good, and there was obviously things we need to fix. And Devin Nicholson had a great game. He played well, honestly, and was a highlight and something to build off of for sure. We just need other guys playing as hard as he did and for as long as he did, which is what we're striving for now.
And then you look at it on the offensive side of the ball. We had talked a little bit, like you said, it is the most opportunistic team in the country. I thought a lot of guys took advantage of the opportunity, especially 2 of the younger wide receivers in Trell Harris. And it was my first game action look at Krishan McCray, and I thought he did a lot of good things and really kind of looked the part with some speed and kind of had a effortless glide to him during his route running.
Yeah, there was a lot of players that this is their first time really getting that I call it live experience, sure. Where they're playing in a game and they're actually the guy. Some of these guys have been backups before, but they've never been the guy that you're relying on to make plays, play in and play out. And those 2 guys did a great job and a lot to build on, a lot to learn from. They did some things that were very youthful as well. But definitely the future is bright on offense. I told everybody that the great thing about the offense is everybody's back next year. So as long as we're getting better, it'll pay dividends.
Yeah, and you mentioned a lot of moving parts, especially on that offensive line and the wide receiving core. And I thought a lot of guys, like you said, stepped up and really kind of owned a high-octane, hot, muggy situation down in Orlando. And I believe you guys went about 7 or 8 deep in that rotation. And those guys, like you said, it's going to take a while to mesh together and trust one another and know where everybody is in space when the play is developing. But I thought they held their own, if nothing else, in a tough environment.
Yeah, offensive line-wise, we were really battling all the way up to the end of fall camp. Sure. So the 5 guys that we ended up playing in there, they hadn't played together that long, honestly. So it's going to be a learning experience. I think I got one of the best O-line coaches in the country, Matt Limegrover. He's been everywhere. He's done this before. He knows how to build it. And I'm really impressed with that group's ability to come back and respond in practice. Like, they had a great practice on Sunday, and I think they know the urgency now to get better, which is really important.
Well, we fast forward now to a Saturday afternoon. We're down in Fayetteville taking on the Arkansas Razorbacks, and my first trip down to Fayetteville, I think it's Kent State's as well, at least on the gridiron, but just kind of a 20,000-foot snapshot. I know KJ Jefferson takes a lot of the headlines, but there's more to the Arkansas Razorbacks than just their big quarterback.
Yeah, he's a big son buck, and he can throw the ball around, and he likes to stay in the pocket and use his arm strength, and he's talented, and he's got really good receivers. They've got a really good running back that's got a ton of accolades as well, and a solid offensive line. So they're a complete offense for sure. And Dan Enos was at Maryland, so I'm familiar with him from our Big Ten days, and he does a great job of getting guys in situations where they can make plays. And then defensively, they've got a really good safety and some guys up front that play a lot of football for them. And they're a talented football team. I mean, any SEC team is a pretty talented team, and you see that all over the tape.
Just talk a little bit about how you're going to prepare for the atmosphere, I think, especially with those students. So that's got to help at least a little bit. But like if you guys watch the press conference, a lot of people mentioned we do have some veterans that have played in similar environments. Lean on them a little bit, maybe.
Yeah, you look at our football team. I always say it's very inexperienced, but there is a ton of like maturity.
Sure.
We have a lot of guys that are very mature people, and I don't think they're going to get overwhelmed by the atmosphere at all. I think we prep for it. We play with crowd noise as loud as possible. We practice with it. And it helps us out. We'll be okay.
Well, that game is going to be at 4 o'clock on the SEC Network. Plus, you can catch it on the Kent State Radio Network. Coach, it's going to be a lot of fun as we try to silence a little of the hog call and Woo Pig Suey on Saturday
there you
afternoon.
Go. No, a big, great atmosphere, great game, and we're looking forward to responding.
Coach, you and I have something in common. We're both Illinois natives and Chicago Bears fans. Obviously, week 1 of the NFL. I mean, it's America's game of the week when the hated Packers cross paths with the Chicago Bears. I know you're probably not going to get to watch them as much as you'd like, but a fellow opportunistic team in the Chicago Bears. So what are you going to look to see from your Monsters in the Midway this year?
You know what? I want to see if they got better up front. I'm a big Bears fan, and I know they're really close. It's crazy. Their head coach, Matt Eberfluth, I actually committed to him out of high school at Missouri. So I've always been rooting for him to do well there, and I'm interested to see how they do. But no, if they can get the offensive line better, I think they've got a lot of pieces in place to be a really good football team.
It should be fun to watch both on Saturdays and Sundays with you guys, and then the Monsters of the Midway on Sunday. It should be a lot of fun. I'm looking for Justin Fields to, like you said, take that next step, but he can't do it if he's running for his life because that offensive line's not doing anything.
Very much so. They're very similar to the Kent State Golden Flashes. We both can get our offensive lines moving in the right direction. We can probably have pretty good seasons.
Well, let's hope for a lot of W's over the course of some weekends here in the fall.
That's right.
We'll be back with more Flash Talk right after this, brought to you by Bryant Heating and Cooling. Welcome back inside the GFTV studios. Flash Talk brought to you by Bryant Heating and Cooling. Dan Griffin alongside Jenna Hillstrom, one of the assistant soccer coaches. And Coach, first and foremost, welcome back. We always talk about here at Kent State, somebody that's boomerang back. You had obviously a historic playing career here, went off and did your thing professionally, and now welcome back.
Yeah, thanks. It feels so good to be back. I loved my 4 years as a student athlete, and yeah, I'm excited to, be where I was, and it was like my home away from home. So yeah, it feels good.
Well, talk a little bit about the process of you ending your professional career and then starting your coaching career here at Kent State. How did that come to be, and what kind of led you to making the decision going, this is the place that I want to come back to?
Yeah, so I would say the last 8 months of my playing career, I started to think about, okay, like what's next? I'm already, at that point I was 27, turning 28, and sports have to end at some point. So a lot for me was playing on the national team while playing professionally, of course, but that just really wasn't happening anymore, which is fine. Like I had my years with Team Canada, and so, yeah, I was very interested in getting into coaching, and as I talked more with Coach Rob about like my next steps, because while I was here, we had a really good relationship, and he was someone that I talked to after I graduated from Kent. So he was always been my mentor, so Coach Abby left, and I knew that they were looking for a female, so we just stayed in contact, and he was like, yeah, we're posting the job at this time. Like, do you think you're 100% ready to retire? And I was like, yeah, like I've been thinking about it for a while now. So that's just kind of how it happened. And then, went through the interview process and all that stuff.
Well, we're happy to have you back. You mentioned playing for Team Canada. What kind of honor was that to be able to represent your country on a global stage like that?
Yeah, it was amazing. It's a feeling, like it's hard to describe, but it's always an honor to play for your country, and I was so lucky to do it for about 4 years and to represent Canada on the biggest stage, right? So I went to the World Cup in 2019 in France. That experience was crazy. It's full of emotion, but just to make it to that point, like that's the moment where I thought back to everything I've been through, everything I've sacrificed, just seeing my dad in the stands there and my mom and my sister watching from home, and just realizing at that moment that everything's worth it. And that's what's also so good about me getting this opportunity, is showing players that playing in a Mid-American conference, you can also make it as far as anybody else. And it was an amazing experience for sure.
So you represent Canada. You also had a pretty storied professional career. You said you played in the States a little bit, and then you played over in Europe. So talk a little bit about playing in the NWSL, the women's counterpart to the MLS, and playing on that stage and then taking your talents overseas.
Yeah, so as a North American, once you've made the NWSL, that's like, okay, that's the feeling like you made it. Like you made it to one of the best leagues in the world, if not arguably the best league. And so it took me a little bit to get there, but after the World Cup, I thought, okay, there's going to be some opportunity to potentially play in this league, and I got one. And it was unfortunate. It was during COVID, so 2020. That's when I signed, and so the season was very short. We had like the COVID season, like the other pro sports leagues had. So it was we were in Utah, did a tournament for like 6 weeks, and I mean that was a great experience in itself. You get to play with a lot of the best players in the world when you go to that league. So I got to play with a couple of the USA national team players, so that was super cool. And yeah, it was a challenge for sure, but I'm definitely happy I got to experience that league.
And you said you played in Sweden, you played in France. Just what is that lifestyle like to be able to be you're already an international being from Canada, but being completely divorced from North America. Talk about that lifestyle and trying to acclimate it while playing at the highest level.
Yeah, I mean, at first it was very difficult. So I went over my first time when I was 21, or no, sorry, it was 22. Yeah, so after I graduated, I went over 2 months later. And like I said, at first it was very difficult. You don't know the language. That was when I went to Sweden. And the culture is completely different. You think it's going to be like college where, okay, you go to practice, afterwards you're being with your teammates all day. But as a professional, you're playing with women, like, who have a family, who have other things to do after practice. So that was the really challenging part for me, was that I was away from my family and felt like I didn't have, I had my teammates, but like I said, they're older. Like a lot of them were between the ages of 28 and 32. So they had a life outside of playing football. So that part was hard, but I ended up loving Sweden. The country's beautiful. The people are super welcoming. And it is very similar to Canada in terms of weather and that type of stuff. But I really, really enjoyed myself in Sweden.
And where in France were you?
I was in Dijon. So it's a smaller city, but it's about 2 hours away from Paris, which is nice because if you want a big city, you can travel to Paris pretty easily. Yeah.
My knowledge of Dijon is mustard, and that's it.
And that's what they're known for.
Okay.
That's what it is Dijon mustard.
Well, welcome back, and you're going to bring a wealth of experience and obviously talent back to Kent State, and best of luck as you enter this next stage of your career.
Yeah, thank you so much.
We'll be back with more Flash Talk, brought to you by Brian Hegan Cooling, right after this.
We're here for Media Day. We're taking pictures and videos.
Yeah, a little interview.
The person that gets the aux is usually Emma.
Probably Heidi Marshall or Joey. Joey has a good aux as well.
Patty.
Yeah,
Patty.
Probably like the receivers. Yeah, the receivers.
Joey Skillen.
Like in the change room?
I'm gonna go with Sienna because I like her.
Yeah, you know what?
Yeah.
Kat or Heidi?
Heidi. Definitely Heidi.
I mean, I would like to say myself, but there's actually no other option.
Who has the most drip on the team?
I gotta go Bryn, the interviewer herself.
She knows it. She knows it. She knows it.
Heidi.
I was just about to say Heidi Marshall, hands down.
Most drip? Maybe Tingy?
Oh, Tingy. Yeah, Tingy.
Caden Beatty. He's got the best drip on the team.
It's probably the sweatpants.
I like the full tracksuit.
Yeah, me too.
I lived in
I
that.
like it. Yeah.
The throwback pants that they gave us.
Last semester?
Yeah, they were like, no one wants
those.
these.
No, I love
them.
those. Yeah.
All right, the parkas. We got nice, brand new black parkas that go really far down.
My secret talent is I can make a clover with my tongue.
Do it.
Okay.
Her hidden talent is her Christina Aguilera impression.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
I'm really good at catching popcorn in my mouth.
I can crack my back really good. Baby, are you ready?
Oh, I can do the worm.
Let's take a look at what's going on around Kent State Athletics, brought to you by KSUTix.com. Our field hockey team traverses the Keystone State, taking on Penn State on Friday before battling Bucknell on Sunday afternoon. Our volleyball team is up in Buffalo, taking on a Buffalo tourney and a trio of teams. And soccer celebrates its seniors on Senior Day at 1 o'clock when they welcome in the Duquesne Dukes to Zeller Field inside of Dick Stadium. Plus, our football team is taking on the Arkansas Razorbacks on Saturday afternoon. Catch the game on the Kent State Radio Network as well as the SEC Network. Kickoff is at 4 p.m. Eastern. Football, volleyball, and basketball tickets are now on sale. Single game and season ticket options are available. Check out KSUTix.com. For more information about your Golden Flashes, visit at Kent State Athletics on your favorite social media platform or visit us on the web at kentstatesports.com. Welcome inside the GFTV studios. I'm Dan Griffin, joined with our athletic director, Randale Richmond. And, sir, it's the beginning of the year. It's the lid lifters. We got to call in the ace to start the season. And wanted to talk to you a little bit about, we're starting year 3 in your tenure here. So as you kind of look back on the first 2 calendar seasons, one, they seem like they've probably flown by, yeah. But 2, kind of just talk a little bit about what you're most proud of and what you've been able to, what you and the department have been able to accomplish.
Yeah, it's been an amazing 2 years. It really has, and I'm excited that we're going to talk about some of those things. For me, the number one thing that I'm most excited about, and it's always going to be that way with me, is the people. Because when we got together as a new regime, the people set what our new mission, what our new vision, what our new guiding principles were going to be. And to see after we set those, to see the fruits of that labor, to see the success of that plan all come together, and then to have the results, not only in the classroom, in the community, and what we do on the playing surface. I got the bling bling, to prove it. I don't have enough hands for all the bling bling to prove it throughout the year. To see that because the people come to fruition, that's been the best thing, Dan.
And you talk about the people, and you always harken back to kind of the boomerang effect. Yeah. The people you're bringing in are people that, at some form or fashion, have called this place home in one way or another.
Right, some connection to Kent State. I think the last time we did the analysis on it, there was somewhere around 30 people who are either former student athletes here, they got their first GA-ship here, or their first job here. And then they went out and they said, you know what, it's something different about the culture at that place, Kent State. And they came back, and we weren't just bringing them back because they're alum. When they're coming back, they're very talented. And it's no more than you see on our men's basketball team. Every last one of them has that connection. And even bringing Jim Christian back and to see the impact that he had on that program, more so on Rob Senderoff, I think, than anyone else, is the reason I was able to just show that little bit of that bling here today. So it's very special and what makes us different and unique.
Well, and not only that, you're retaining the talent. I can't tell you how many times I get the wonderful email or text message, hey, so-and-so has signed a contract extension, or we're bringing this guy or this coach back. And, I mean, you come here, they have success, and then they're rewarded with that success for their work both on and off the field of play.
Yeah, that's really good that you bring that out, Dan, because when I speak to our coaches specifically, I want what they want for their ultimate goals of success. We have 11 of our 13 head coaches signed up for 3 or more years, and we're going to earmark some of those other contracts to take a look at. That's the sustainability, and that's an investment in Kent State. That's huge in this day and time. And when we were talking to those coaches, I let them know everything that we're going to invest in, we're going to look to invest in our student athletes. That way, you're going to have a very successful career if you want to be here at Kent State for the rest of your career. If you have other goals in mind, the different challenges in mind, well, the success of these student athletes, both in the classroom, off the court, and all the playing surfaces and on the playing surface, are going to dictate that. I don't lie to them about those conversations. What are your goals? How can I help you reach your goals? Because if you reach your goals, our student athletes are going to reach their goals. This department is going to reach their goals. This university is going to reach their goals. There's a win in it for everyone, and the majority of them say, I want to be here. And that's a special thing about Kent State.
Well, and then you talked a little bit about the investment in the student athletes. You look at the work we've done with their nutritional aspects and the stuff that they're doing behind the scenes, whether it be both academics and with the facilities that we're doing as far as getting ready to stay on that field and to succeed when they're out there.
Dan, I don't know anyone who's doing it better than Kent State. I'm going to list a couple of the things that we got going on. You mentioned the thing about the nutrition station and how important that was. I didn't know how important it was to our student athletes. Everything we did in terms of our student athlete exit, we don't call them exit interviews, we call them student athlete experience surveys. our experience surveys, that was the number one most appreciative thing that they talked about. Not being able to go to get a bite to eat at 6 a.m., but being able to go to the nutrition station and get something in their bellies before they go out there and get ready for practice. And then you talk about the facilities. So many new ones that we got coming on board. This year is going to be electric because of it. You look at what we have going on with our gymnastic facilities and the upgrades there. This going to be one of the marquee facilities within the Mid-American Conference. Our track and field program is going to have one of the biggest facelifts with our indoor facility, especially what we got going already with the weight room renovation that we had the year before and the turf renovation in there. How about softball? That's something that's been long time promised, long time thought about. Finally got that started with the turf, and when we got the dugouts coming this year. Then we look at what we've been able to do with our men's basketball locker room. You talk about a program who deserves to be proud of an area they're walking into. That's one of those programs. And our women's basketball has a new film room, thanks to a generous donor who's going to be investing in that we're going to get that project started this upcoming year. What we've been able to invest in, I didn't even get into the stuff that we had going on at the golf facility, one of the best in the country, and the reason we have one of the top golf programs in the nation. We've done so much in such a short time, so thankful to our donors, thankful to our university leadership, people before us who set that platform, because we are crushing it in those areas.
That's going to do it for this week's edition of Flash Talk. Join us next week when we take another deep dive inside Kent State Athletics. For all of us here inside the GFTV studios, this is Dan Griffin saying goodnight and go Flashes.